Good afternoon, my name is Evelyn Arevalo, and today I'm going to explain the four characteristics of learning environments according to the study case. To begin with, the authors explain that learning environments are not all the same, and in fact, they differ depending on their level of complexity, the type of learning involved, and the responsibility given to students. Therefore, in order to understand how a learning environment works, it's important to analyze four essential characteristics. These are the starting point, the aim, the approach, and the justification of results. The first characteristic is the starting point. This refers to where the learning process begins. And according to this, a learning environment can start from a task, a problem, or a situation. For example, in a task based learning environment, students begin with a task that must be completed. On the other hand, in a problem based learning environment, students start with a problem that needs a solution. And finally, in a situation based learning environment, students work with a real complex professional situation. As we can see, the starting point determines how students interact with learning. Number two, the second characteristic is the aim. In other words, the characteristic answer the question, what is done and why? This aim changes depending on the type of learning environment. For instance, in a task based environment, the goal is to carry out tasks effectively according to the organizational policies. Meanwhile, in problem based environment, the objective is to solve problems and improve procedures. In contrast, in a situation based learning environment, the aim is broader because students try to improve real circumstances through innovation and strategic decisions. Consequently, the aim influences what students are expected to achieve. Let's continue with a third characteristic, and it is the approach. This refers to the level at which students work. The document identifies three levels. We have the operational, tactical, and strategic. First, the operational approach is related to task based learning, and here students focus on completing tasks correctly and obtaining practical results. The second one is the tactical approach that is connected to problem based learning, and at this level, students analyze situations and find solutions based on current policies or procedures. And finally, we have the strategic approach that belongs to the situation based learning environment. This level is more complex because students must think critically and propose innovation supported by carefully planning. For this reason, the approach becomes more demanding as students move toward more complex learning environments. Let's continue with the fourth and final characteristic that is the justification of results. It focuses on evaluating outcomes, and in other words, it asks what should the result achieve and who decides if it is successful or not. In this document, we can see that it's explained the results they must meet a specific criteria. For example, in task-based environments, the work should satisfy established standards. Meanwhile, in problem-based environments, both the method and the solution are evaluated. And meanwhile, in situation based environments, the innovation, the process, and the final policy or plan must meet professional expectations and meta criteria. In conclusion, the four characteristics of learning environments we have starting point, the aim, the approach, and justification of results. They help educators understand how learning should be organized, and these characteristics allow students to gradually develop professional skills and take more responsibility for their learning processes. Therefore, learning environments become more practical and effective because they prepare students not only for gaining knowledge to memorize, but also to function successfully in real professional context and develop skills that are needed in nowadays world. Thank you so much for listening.